In the quiet corridors of the celestial embassy orbiting Neptune, a young alien princess named Lyra stood trembling behind a translucent veil, her silver eyes shimmering with unshed tears. She had traveled light years across the void, not for diplomacy, but for love her people. The Varelians were a gentle species known for their empathy and deep emotional bonds, yet their customs were strict, especially regarding courtship. Lyra had watched Earth broadcasts for cycles, fascinated by human stories of romance, bravery, and sacrifice. She had seen footage of Lily Carter, a human woman who led rescue missions during the Titan icequake disaster. Lily was strong, kind, and fiercely protective of her crew. Lyra had fallen for her from afar, believing Lily to be unattached and available. Now standing just outside the observation lounge where Lily reviewed star charts, Lyra clutched a ceremonial blossom from her homeworld. Its petals glowed faintly with bioluminescent light, a symbol of pure intent. In Varelian culture, she took a deep breath and stepped forward. Lily looked up from her console, her dark curls tied back, her expression calm but alert. She wore a simple navy uniform with no insignia, just a small patch bearing the emblem of the Solar Alliance. Lyra approached slowly, her 4 slender fingers trembling as she held out the blossom. "I come in peace," she whispered, her voice melodic like wind through crystal chimes. "I have watched you, Lily Carter, and my heart chose you before my feet ever touched your ship." Lily blinked, surprised but not unkindly. She stood and offered a small bow as she had learned from xenocultural briefings. "I am honored, Princess Lyra, but I must ask, what brings you here alone?" Tears welled in Lyra's eyes. She lowered her gaze, the blossom dimmed slightly. "I thought you were single," she said softly. "The broadcasts never showed you with a mate, and in my culture to offer this bloom means I am ready to bond for life." Lily's expression softened. She stepped closer but did not touch the princess yet. "I am flattered, truly. But there is something you must know." Lyra's breath hitched. She braced herself for rejection. Her people did not handle heartbreak, while many had faded into silence after unreturned affections. Before Lily could speak, a sudden alarm blared through the ship. Red lights pulsed along the walls, a voice crackled over the intercom breach in Sector 7. Unknown vessels approaching fast. Lily's demeanor shifted instantly. She moved, with purpose, her calm replaced by sharp focus. "Princess, stay behind me," she ordered, then tapped her wrist comm unit. "This is Carter. Lockdown all civilian zones and prep the defense grid." But Lyra did not step back. Instead, she straightened her spine, her tears drying as if burned away by sudden resolve. "My people may be peaceful, but we are not helpless," she said. Lily paused, studying the princess for a long moment, then nodded. "Understood. But stay close." They rushed through the winding corridors, the ship groaning under unseen strain. As external impacts shook the hull through a viewport, Lyra saw 3 jagged vessels shaped like obsidian scythes closing in. They belonged to the Croth, a warlike species known for harvesting rare bioenergies and enslaving empathic beings like the Varelians. "They are here for me," Lyra said, her voice tight with fear and fury. "They have hunted my kind for generations, our emotions' power." Their machines, Lily cursed under her breath, then stopped abruptly at a sealed hatch. She input a code and the door slid open, revealing not weapons but a sleek control room filled with holographic displays. "This is not just an embassy," Lily said quickly. "It is a covert sentinel station, and I am not just a diplomat." Lyra stared at her, confusion and hope warring in her chest. "I am commander of the Silent Wing," Lily explained, "a Black Ops division tasked with protecting vulnerable species from predators like the Croth. We have been tracking them for months, waiting for them to reveal their next target." "You knew they would come for me," Lyra whispered. "I suspected," Lily admitted, "and I needed them to make the first move so we could trace their command." Lyra's eyes widened, then narrowed in realization. "You used me as bait." "Not exactly," Lily said gently. "I used their assumption that you were unprotected and alone. I knew they would strike when you left Varelia, and I positioned this station along their likely path." The princess stepped back, her glow dimming again, but this time not from sorrow, from betrayal. Before she could speak, another tremor rocked the ship harder. This time a section of the corridor collapsed, sealing them inside. Lily checked her comm static. "Only the Croth are jamming us," she said, then looked at Lyra. We have minutes before they board. Lyra said nothing for a long moment. Then she raised her hands and began to hum a low, resonant tone. The air around her shimmered, and the walls of the room seemed to pulse in response. "What are you doing?" Lily asked. "My people do not fight with weapons," she said, "but with resonance we can disrupt energy fields and shatter harmonic structures. If I amplify my emotional frequency through the ship's hull, I might disable their boarding clamps." Lily's eyes lit up that could buy us time. Together, they worked, Lyra focusing her energy while Lily rerouted power to reinforce the resonance field. The ship hummed like a living thing, and outside the Croth vessels faltered, their dark forms flickering. As if caught in a storm, it is working. Lyra gasped, sweat beading on her brow, but I cannot hold it. Long Lily moved to the main console, her fingers flying over the keys. Then she activated a hidden protocol. A series of drones launched from the embassy's underbelly, each carrying a pulse charge keyed to the Croth's frequency. The explosion was silent in the vacuum, but devastating. The three vessels cracked apart like glass struck by a tuning fork. Debris spiraled into the void. Silence returnedly. Collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Lily knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder gently. "I am sorry I did not tell you the truth sooner. Lily said I wanted to protect you, but I also needed your presence to draw them out. It was a risk, and it was wrong of me to keep you in the dark." Lyra looked up, her silver eyes searching Lily's face. "You could have let them take me and followed quietly. You did not have to be here in danger with me." "I could not," Lily said, "simply because I care about you more than any mission." Lyra's breath caught, then a soft glow returned to her blossom. It brightened steadily until it filled the room with a warm golden light. In Varelian tradition, she said, when a blossom reignites after dimming, it means the heart has found truth, not just desire. Lily smiled for the first time since the alarm sounded. "So, what does that mean for us?" "It means," Lyra said, rising to her feet with newfound strength, "that I still offer my bond, but not as a timid princess seeking rescue, but as an equal standing beside you." Lily took the glowing blossom and tucked it into her uniform over her heart. Then she reached for Lyra's hand. Their fingers intertwined. 4. Meeting 5. In a quiet promise. In the days that followed, the Solar Alliance launched a full sweep of Croth territory using the data Lily had gathered. The Varelians were finally safe, and Lyra chose to stay aboard the Sentinel station. Not as a guest, but as its new Xenolink officer. Her empathy proving invaluable. In decoding enemy signals and calming traumatized refugees, Lily never again hid her plans from Lyra, and Lyra never again doubted Lily's intentions. They learned to trust not just each other, but the fragile, beautiful space between truth and sacrifice, and sometimes late at night when the stars outside burned cold and distant, they would sit together in the observation lounge, Lyra humming softly while Lily traced the lines of her palm, and the blossom still glowed between them, a quiet testament to a love forged not in ease but in fire and honesty. Peace settled over the outer rim like a soft blanket, but Lyra knew better than to trust stillness. She had learned that quiet often came right before the storm. Especially in the wake of the Hollow King's surrender, not all Croth forces had laid down their arms. Some had vanished into the fractured asteroid belts beyond Uranus, taking with them stolen Varelian tech and a deep hatred for mercy. Lily noticed the change in Lyra first, the way her silver eyes lingered too long on sensor readouts, the way she flinched at sudden noises even in the safety of the embassy. It was not fear, it was memory, and memory could be a Kajone morning. Lyra received a message encoded in the old Varelian harmonic cipher. It came not from her homeworld, but from a derelict listening post near the Pluto debris field. The signal was weak, broken, but the voice was unmistakable. It was her younger sister Kayla, who had been missing since the first Croth raids years ago, presumed deadly. Replayed the message 3 times before showing it to Lily. "They have me," she whispered, her voice raw. "They say if you do not come alone, they will silence me forever. Not kill, just erase." Lily's jaw tightened. "This is a trap, I know," Lyra said. "But it is also my sister." They argued not loudly, but with the weight of shared loss. Lily wanted to bring a strike team. Maeve wanted to rig the entire sector with mines. Lyra wanted to go alone. In the end, they compromisedly, Ra would go, but not unarmed and not truly alone. Lily and Maeve would shadow her in the iron petal cloaked and silent, hidden in the magnetic wake of Pluto's largest moon. The meeting point was a crumbling station once used for ice mining, its corridors dark and frozen. Lyra stepped inside wearing only a simple tunic. No weapons, no tech, just the ceremonial blossom still glowing faintly in her palm. She found Kayla in the central chamber, bound in energy cuffs. Her eyes dull, her skin palely. Ran to her but stopped short when a figure stepped. From the shadows, it was not a Kroth warrior. It was a human, tall, lean, with sharp features and cold blue eyes. He wore a faded Solar Alliance insignia, but his uniform was torn and stained. "You must be Lily's pet alien," he said, his voice smooth like. Lyra stood straight. "Who are you?" "Call me Silas." He said, "I was Lily's partner before she went soft. Joined the Silent Wing before she started saving monsters instead of killing them." "You are the one who leaked our positions to the Kroth," Lyra said, suddenly understanding. Silas smiled. "I gave them targets, I gave them purpose, and now I have something better." "A new weapon," he gestured to Kayla, whose head lolled weakly. "We modified her, Lyra," he said, spliced Kroth neural tech with Varelian empathy. "Knows she is no longer just a girl. She is a conduit. She can amplify sorrow across entire systems. One broadcast and whole colonies will collapse into despair." "You are sick," Lyra spat. "No. I am practical," he said. "The galaxy is too loud, too emotional, too weak. Love is a flaw, and I am here to correct it." "Then do it," Lyra said, stepping forward. "Take me instead. I am older, stronger. My resonance is deeper." Silas tilted his head, considering, then nodded. "Very well. But first prove your loyalty." He handed her a small device, a neural trigger linked to Kayla's implant. "If you press it, she will be free. But only if you mean it. Only if your intent is pure." The Varelian way Lyra took it, her fingers trembling not from fear but from rage. She looked at her sister, whose eyes pleaded silently. Then she pressed the trigger. Nothing happened. Silas laughed. "You fool, it was never real. I just wanted to see if you would try to save her in that moment." The station shook. Alarms blared not from the station, but from Silas's own comm unit. The spun around as the main hatch exploded inward. Lily stood there, pulse rifle raised, Maeve at her side. "Both breathing hard?" "You always talk too much." Silas snarled and lunged for a console, but Lyra was faster. She dropped to her knees, placed her palms on the metal floor, and sang not a song of love this time, but of truth. A Varelian reckoning tone that stripped away deception. The walls vibrated, the lights flickered, and Silas screamed as the Kroth tech grafted into his spine shorted out, his body convulsing as false memories burned away. Maeve rushed to Kayla and cut her bonds while Lily covered. "Silas, she is not worth a bullet," Lily said, "but he is worth a trial." They dragged him back to the iron pedal. Kayla wrapped in thermal blankets, her mind fractured but healing. On the return trip, Lyra held her sister's hand, never letting go. Back at the embassy, doctors worked through the night to remove the implants from Kayla's skull, each one humming with stolen sorrow. By dawn she opened her eyes and whispered Lyra's name. Tears streamed down Lyra's face. She kissed her sister's forehead and finally allowed herself to breathe later. Lily found her on the observation deck staring at the stars. "You did good," Lyra said without turning. "Did good," Lily corrected, sitting beside her. For days the embassy buzzed with activity. Silas was locked in a quantum cell, his betrayal sending shockwaves through the Alliance. But Lyra paid little attention. She spent every waking hour with Kayla, teaching her old songs, helping her remember who she was before the silence. One evening, Kayla asked, "Why you came for me? You barely knew I was alive." "Because you are my heart," Lyra said simply. "And hearts do not need proof to beat." Meanwhile, Maeve intercepted a new signal, not from Kroth remnants but from deep within the Kuiper Belt. A repeating pulse in Varelian code. It was not a distress call. It was a summons. "The elders are calling me back," Lyra told Lily that night. "I know," Lily said. They stood in the quiet of the corridor, neither wanting to say the words. "You will go," Lily said. "It is your duty, and you will stay," she replied. "It is yours. But what about us?" Lyra took Lily's hand and placed it over her own chest, where the blossom still glowed beneath her tunic. "This is not goodbye," she said. "This is just another orbit. We will meet again when the stars align." Lily nodded, but her eyes were wet. The day Lyra left, She wore full Varelian regalia, silver robes woven with starlight threads, her hair braided, with memory beads, each one holding a moment from her time on the embassy. Kayla stood beside her, strong enough now to walk on her own. As they boarded the Varelian shuttle, Maeve gave Lyra a small box. Inside was a human compass, its needle replaced, with a sliver of Croth obsidian. So, "You never lose your way back," Maeve said gruffly. Lyra hugged her, then turned to Lily. No grand words. No tears, just a look that held everything. The shuttle lifted off and vanished into the void. Weeks turned to months. Lily threw herself into missions, clearing out last pockets of Croth resistance, rebuilding trust with wary colonies. But every night she checked the long-range comm for a signal. Then one evening it came. A single harmonic tone followed by 3 words in Varelianium. Home. Lily smiled for the first time in months and tapped a reply. "I am waiting, far away on a world bathed in twin suns." Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking a city of light and song. She wore the blossom in her hair, now a symbol not of courtship but of leadership. She had been named Voice of the People not because she was royal, but because she had walked through silence and returned with truth. And though oceans of space lay between them, Lyra knew Lily's presence like a second. Heartbeat steady and sure, one day she would return to the stars, not as a princess, not as a refugee, but as a bridge between worlds. And Lily would be there waiting. Not as a soldier, but as a promise kept. The universe was vast, but love was vaster, and in the quiet between heartbeats, they were never truly apart. Months had passed since Lyra returned to Virelia, and the twin suns now rose over a world reborn. The cities pulsed with gentle light. The rivers sang with clean energy, and the people walked with their heads high, no longer hiding their empathy as weakness but wearing it as armor still. Lyra felt a quiet ache in her chest, not of sorrow but of distance. Lily's messages came weakly, short and steady, like a heartbeat across the void. But words could not replace presence on Earth. Lily stood on the observation deck of a newly commissioned station orbiting Mars. The Solar Alliance had honored her service by naming it the Carter Beacon. A quiet tribute she did not ask for, but accepted for the sake of morale. She reviewed patrol routes and refugee resettlement plans, but her eyes often drifted to the comm panel, waiting for that familiar harmonic chime. Then one morning it came, not as a message, but as an alert. A massive energy surge had been detected near the Oort cloud. Not Croth, not human, but something older, something dormant now waking. Intel was scarce, but one detail chilled Lily to the bone. The signal matched Varelian origin, yet it carried a frequency no living Varelian had used in 10,000 years. The song of the first silence. Lyra would know what it meant. Before Lily could send a query, a transmission opened not through official channels but on a private line reserved only for them. Lyra's face appeared on screen, her silver eyes wide with urgency. They woke. She said without greeting, "The old ones, the ones who built the first forge. They are not myths, Lily. They are real, and they are angry." "Who are they?" Lily asked. "The Keepers." Lyra whispered. "Beings who believe emotion is chaos and must be pruned from the universe they slumbered when our ancestors chose love over order. Now they think we have failed. They think we are weak, and they are coming here." "Not just here," Lyra said. "Everywhere they do not invade, they reset. They will not kill us. They will make us forget how to feel." Eileen's blood ran cold. "How long?" "Days, maybe less. I'm coming," Lily said, already moving toward the hangar. "No," Lyra said firmly. "You cannot fight them with weapons." "Then how?" "With truth," she said. "Meet me at the Pluto relay. I have a plan. But I need you to trust me completely." Lily did not hesitate. "I always have." Within hours, the iron pedal launched with Lily at the helm. Maeve refused to stay behind, strapping into the co-pilot seat with a grunt. "If the universe is ending, I want front row seats." They reached the Pluto relay to find Lyra waiting alone on a drifting platform, her robes flowing in the solar wind. She held no weapon, only a small crystalline orb pulsing with soft light. "What is that?" Lily asked as she stepped onto the platform. "The heartseed," Lyra said, "the last piece of the original Varelian world tree. It holds the memory of every feeling our species has ever known. Joy, grief, hope, betrayal, love. It is not a weapon, it is a mirror. You want to show the keepers our pain, Lyra nodded. They do not understand because they have never felt. They see emotion as noise, but it is music. And I will make them hear it, but if they reject it, then we all become silent forever. Lyra said simply. Maeve whistled softly. Well, kid, you picked a hell of a last stand. They did not wait long. Space itself seemed to fold as a vessel emerged. Not built but grown from obsidian and starlight. It had no weapons, no engines, just a presence that made the stars. Dima figure stepped onto the platform, not walking but appearing as if it had always been there, tall, featureless, its form shifting like smoke. It spoke not with sound but directly into their minds. You have summoned us, child of chaos. I have, Lyra said. Standing tall, you came to judge us, but you do not know us. We know your wars, your tears, your endless cycles of pain. You are broken, and you are empty. Lyra shot back. You sealed away your hearts to avoid hurt. But in doing so, you lost the only thing that makes existence worth living. The keeper tilted its head, curious. Prove it. Lyra held up the heartseed and began to sing, not a battle cry, not a plea, but a story. She sang of her mother's lullaby, of her first bloom, of watching Earth broadcasts and dreaming of Lily. She sang of fear during the Croth attack, of betrayal, when she thought Lily used her, of the moment she chose to trust again. She sang of holding Kayla as she woke from silence, of Maeve's rough kindness, of Lily's quiet strength. The heartseed glowed brighter with every note until it filled the void with golden light. Lily felt memories, not her own flood. Her mind, a Varelian child laughing in rain, a warrior weeping over a fallen friend, an elder planting a tree for a grandchild she had never met even. Maeve wiped her eyes, muttering, damn space magic. The keeper stood motionless, then it reached out a hand, not to strike but to touch the light. In that instant it screamed, not in pain, but in awakening. For the first time in eons it felt the weight of loneliness, the sharpness of regret, the warmth of connection. It staggered back, its form flickering between smoke and something almost human. You were right, the keeper said, its voice now trembling. We were wrong. The heartseed dimmed, gently returning to its soft pulse. What will you do now? Lyra asked. We will sleep again, the keeper said, but not in judgment, in hope. Perhaps one day we too can learn to feel without fear. Then it turned and vanished. The vessel dissolving into stardust, silence returned, but it was different now. Lighter. Maeve let out a long breath. Well, that was weirdly beautiful. Lily walked to Lyra and took her hands. They were cold but steady. You did it, she whispered. We did it? Lyra corrected. They returned to the iron pedal, not as fugitives or soldiers, but as witnesses to a miracle. Back at the Carter beacon, celebrations erupted, but Lyra did not join them. She stood with Lily on the outer rim, watching the stars return to their full brightness. You could stay now, Lyra said softly. The danger is over. Lily looked at her, then at the endless sky. I have duties here and I have mine on Varelia. They both knew the truth. Distance would always be between them, but it no longer felt like a wall, more like a bridge they had built together. Week later, Lyra prepared to leave again, but this time she did not wear robes of state. She wore a simple tunic and a small pouch at her belt. Inside was a human compass Maeve had given her and a lock of Lily's hair tied with a thread of Varelian silk. As she boarded her shuttle, Lily handed her one last thing, a data chip. What is it? Lyra asked. Every message I never sent. She said every time I wanted to say I miss you but thought it was too much. Lyra tucked it into her pouch over her heart. The shuttle lifted off, and this time neither looked away until it was a speck among stars in Varelia. Lyra played the chip that night under the twin suns, each message a quiet confession of longing, courage, and hope. And on Mars, Lily opened a new file on her console titled Lyra and began to write. Not a report but a promise. I will see you again, not because duty demanded it, but because love always finds its way home, and somewhere in the vast quiet of space, two hearts beat in time across the dark, not waiting for silence but filling it with song. Seasons turned in the quiet rhythm of space, and on Varelia, the twin suns now rose over fields of memory, blossoms blooming in colors never seen before. A sign, the world was healing. Lyra walked among them barefoot, her silver eyes calm, but watchful. She had become more than a princess, more than a voice. She was a living bridge between species. Her council chamber filled not only with Varelian elders but with human envoys, Kasari diplomats, and even a reformed Kroth scholar seeking redemption. Every evening she climbed the high spire of the ancestral tower and opened a private comm channel. Not to speak, but just to listen to Lily's breathing across the void. Sometimes Lily read old Earth poetry. Sometimes she described the clouds over Mars. Sometimes they sat in silence, both knowing words were not always needed. Then one night the silence broke. Lily's voice came through, tight and urgent. "We have a problem." "What is it?" Lyra asked, already moving toward the transport pad. "A new signal. It is not from the Keepers, not from the Kroth. It is human origin, but encrypted with Varelian resonance keys. Someone has been studying us deeply." Lyra's blood ran cold. "How do not know, but they hacked the Carter beacon's core and left a single message for you. It says, 'Come alone.'" Or the silence returns, Lear. Ra closed her eyes. "This is not a trap. It is a test. How do you know?" "Because only someone who understands both our worlds would use that phrase." She made her decision before dawn. "Tell Maeve to prep the iron pedal," she said, "and Lily, meet me at the Neptune drift. You are not going alone this time." Lily said firmly, "I am not." Lyra replied, "But I need you to follow at a distance. If I signal green, you stay hidden. If I signal red, you burn the sky." Lily hesitated, then agreed. 3 days later, Lyra stood on a derelict research station orbiting Neptune, its corridors lined with frozen consoles and shattered glass. The air stale but breathable. She wore no armor, only her tunic and the ever-glowing blossom tucked into her belt. A voice echoed from the central chamber, soft, familiar. "You came, I knew you would." Ra stepped inside and froze. Standing before a wall of active holoscreens was a woman with silver streaks in her dark hair and eyes that mirrored Lyra's own, Kayla, but not as she remembered. Her sister stood tall, her posture rigid, her expression unreadable. "You are not my sister," Lyra said slowly. "I am better," she replied. "I have seen the truth. Emotion is not strength. It is vulnerability, and vulnerability is weakness. Who did this to you?" "You know, one made me see." Kayla said. "I chose it after the implants were removed. I studied the Keeper's archives. I learned that the first Varelians were not gentle. They were warriors who sealed away their pain to survive the Great Silence." "That is not the whole story," Lyra said gently. "They sealed it, but they did not destroy it. They kept it safe, so one day it could bloom again." Kayla's lip curled. "You still believe in fairy tales?" Then she activated the holoscreens. Each one showed a different world: Earth, Virelia, Mars, colonies, all pulsing with live feeds. "I have linked them all," Kayla said, "through a network of resonance beacons. If I trigger the final sequence, every being on every screen will feel everything at once, every fear, every loss, every secret shame. It will not be silence, it will be chaos, and from that chaos I will build a new order, one without tears. You will break them." Lyra whispered. "I will free them." Lyra stepped forward, hands open. "No weapons, no song, just truth. I remember when you were small, you cried for 3 days when your pet Lumafly died. I held you and sang until your tears turned to sleep. Do you remember that?" Kayla's face flickered, pain breaking through the ice. "For just a second. I remember you said pain is part of love, and I still believe it." "Then believe this," Kayla said, raising a control rod. "I am not the broken one. You are." She pressed the activation. Key alarms blared across the station. The beacons flared to life, but nothing happened. Kayla stared at the console confusedly. Ra smiled softly. "I knew you would try something like this, so I asked Lily to plant a harmonic dampener in every beacon disguised as maintenance updates. They are not amplifiers. They are filters. You tricked me, no?" Lyra said. "I gave you a choice and you chose fear, but it is not too late." Kayla lunged not at Lyra but at the main console to override the system. Lyra did not stop her. Instead, she began to sing not a song of power but of memory. She sang of their childhood, of hiding in the crystal caves during storms, of braiding each other's hair, of promising to always protect one another. Kayla froze, her hands hovering over the keys, tears welling in her eyes. "I just did not want to hurt again," she whispered. I know, Lyra said, stepping closer and taking her sister's hands. You do not have to be strong alone. In that moment, the station shook. Lily and Maeve burst in, weapons raised, but lowered them when they saw the sisters embracing. Maeve muttered to Lily, I hate it when they fix things with feelings. Lily just smiled. They brought Kayla back to the iron pedal, not as a prisoner, but as a patient. The damage done by her own choices was deep, but not irreversible with time and care. She began to remember who she was before the fear took root. On the journey back to Varelia, Lyra sat with her sister on the observation deck watching Neptune's rings drift by. Do you think I can be forgiven? Kayla asked, by whom Lyra replied, by everyone. I hurt you. Do not need their forgiveness, Kayla, you need your own. Kayla leaned her head on Lyra's shoulder, and for the first time in years, she let herself cry without shame. When they returned to Varelia, the elders were wary, but Lyra stood before them and spoke not as a ruler but as a sister. She asked not for punishment but for healing, and the elders agreed. In the weeks that followed, Kayla worked with the rescued Croth children, teaching them that strength and kindness are not opposites, and slowly she began to heal herself. Meanwhile, Lily received new orders. The Solar Alliance wanted her to lead a joint task force with Varelian advisors to rebuild trust across the outer rims. She accepted on one condition: Lyra must be her first officer. The request was approved within hours. The day Lily arrived on Varelia, she did not wear a uniform. She wore a simple blue tunic and carried a small box. She found Lyra in the memory garden where the first heart seed had been planted. You came back, Lyra said, smiling. I never really left, Lily replied. She opened the box. Inside was not a ring, but a woven band of human steel and Varelian crystalite. Is not a promise of forever, she said. Because forever is too heavy. It is a promise of now and the next, now and the one after that, as long as we both choose. Lyra took the band and slipped it onto her finger. It glowed faintly in sync with her blossom. Then she kissed Lily, not for show, not for duty, but because her heart demanded it. That evening they stood together on the spire, watching the twin suns set over a world no longer divided by fear below them. Kayla laughed with children, their voices rising like song. Maeve grumbled about space weddings, but secretly polished her best jacket just in case, and far away in the quiet dark, the stars burned steady, not as distant lights but as witnesses to a truth as old as time. That love is not the absence of pain, but the courage to feel it together, and in that courage galaxies are healed one heart at a time. Weeks passed since the Croth ambush, and the Celestial Embassy now drifted in a quiet sector near Uranus, its hull still bearing faint scorch marks like scars of survival. Lyra had settled into her role as a Xenolink officer, her presence no longer that of a visitor but a steady calm in the ship's rhythm. She spent her days analyzing subspace echoes and soothing rescued Varelian children who had been found in a derelict freighter drifting near Pluto. Their eyes hollow, until Lyra sang to them in the old tongue. Lily watched her from the command deck, often unnoticed, her heart swelling with quiet pride, but also worry. The Croth had not been destroyed entirely, only scattered, and whispers from deep space suggested they were regrouping under a new leader, one who called himself the Hollow King. He did not seek slaves anymore, he sought extinction. He believed empathic species like the Varelians were a flaw in the universe, a weakness that needed purging. One evening, as Neptune's rings cast long shadows across the observation deck, Lily found Lyra standing alone, her hands pressed against the cool glass, her reflection ghostly in the starlight. You should rest, Lily said softly. Lyra did not turn. I feel it, she whispered, a pull in my bones like a song played backward. Something is coming. Lily joined her side, their shoulders almost touching the silence between them. Comfortable now, built on truth, not hope alone. Intel confirms it. Lily said the Hollow King has activated the Echo Forge. Lyra stiffened. The Echo Forge was a myth, a weapon said to exist only in Varelian nightmares. It did not fire lasers or missiles. It fired silence. It could sever the emotional bonds between beings, turning love into static and memory into dust. If he uses it on my homeworld, Lyra said, her voice breaking, they will not die, they will forget how to care. They will become empty shells. Lily turned to face her. Then we stop him before he reaches Varelia. but how the forge is hidden in the dead zone, a place where sensors fail and time bends. I know, Lily said, and that is why we are not going alone. The next morning, a small vessel docked with the embassy. Its hull matte black and unmarked. From its ramp stepped a woman with short red hair and cybernetic eyes. She wore no uniform, only a leather jacket with a faded Earth flag patch on the shoulder. This is Maeve, Lily said, introducing her to Lyra. Former Croth prisoner turned resistance fighter. She knows the dead zone better than anyone. Maeve gave a curt nod, her voice rough like gravel. I heard you lost 3 drones in the last skirmish. You need better aim or better intel. We need both, Lily said. Good, then stop talking and start loading. I have a ship that bites back. They prepared in haste. The plan was simple. Dangerous and barely sane, they would fly Maeve's ship, the Iron Petal, into the dead zone, using Lyra's resonance as a living compass. Her empathy could sense emotional imprints even in null space. Once inside, they would locate the forge, disable its core, and escape before the Hollow King arrived for its activation. As they undocked, Lyra stood at the viewport, watching the embassy shrink behind them. She felt a pang, not of fear but of longing. She had only just found a home, and now she might lose it all. You okay? Maeve asked from the pilot's seat, her eyes never leaving the swirling nebula ahead. Lyra nodded, but her voice was small. I am just thinking how strange it is that I came here to give my heart, and now I may have to break it to save my people. Eve snorted. Love is a weapon too. Kid, just ask your girlfriend. Lee blinked, then smiled faintly. Yes, she is. Deep in the dead zone, space twisted like wet paper. Stars blinked in and out of existence, and the ship's instruments flickered uselessly. Only Lyra's soft humming kept them on course, her hands resting on the console as if feeling the path through touch alone. Then she gasped, her eyes flying open. It is below us. Maeve banked hard, and the Iron Petal dove through a rift of distorted gravity, revealing a massive structure floating in the void. It looked like a cathedral made of bone and steel, pulsing with a sickly violet light. The Echo forget. They docked in silence, suited up, and moved through airless corridors. The walls lined with frozen Croth warriors suspended in stasis, their faces locked in silent screams. Victims of their own weapon, at the heart of the forge. They found the core, a sphere of swirling dark energy humming with unbearable sorrow. Lyra stepped forward, her own glow dimming in response to the pain around her. I can disrupt it, she said. But I will need to touch it. No. Lily said, grabbing her arm. The energy could erase you. It already has parts of me. Lyra replied gently. I feel memories slipping even now of my mother, of my first bloom day. If I do not act soon, there will be nothing left to save. Before Lily could argue, Maeve shoved a device into Lyra's hand. A resonance damper. I built it from Croth tech and human stubbornness. It might buy you 10 seconds, maybe 15. Lyra took it and nodded. Then she walked to the core, placed her palms on its surface, and began to sing. The song was old, older than Virelia, older than Earth. It was the first song her people ever learned, the song of connection. The core shuddered, the violet light flickered, and for a moment hope bloomed. Then the Hollow King appeared. He was tall, his form wrapped in tattered robes, his face hidden beneath a mask of polished obsidian. He did not speak. He simply raised a hand, and the forge roared to life. Maeve fired her pulse rifle, but the shots dissolved into nothing. Lily drew her sidearm and aimed not at him but at the support beams above the core. If we cannot stop it, we bury it. Do it, Maeve, yelled Lily. Fired. The ceiling cracked and chunks of metal rained down, but the Hollow King moved faster than thought. He was suddenly in front of Lyra, his hand closing around her throat. You think love can defeat silence? He hissed, his voice like cracking ice. Lyra gasped, but did not stop singing. Her eyes locked on Lily's. In that moment, Lily understood. She dropped her weapon and ran, not away but toward them. She slammed her palm onto the damper still in Lyra's hand and activated its overload sequence. Shockwave of pure emotional energy erupted, not destructive but cleansing. It washed over the Hollow King, and for the first time his mask cracked, not physically, but spiritually. Beneath it was not a monster, but a Virelian elder. His eyes wide with horror as memories flooded back. He had been taken as a child, reprogrammed, made to hate his own kind. He released Lyra and fell to his knees weeping. The forge's hum softened, then stopped. Silence returned, but this time it was peaceful. They escaped. Just as the structure collapsed behind them, the iron pedal limping back toward known space. On the return trip, Lyra slept curled against Lily's side, her breathing slow and even. Maeve piloted with one hand, the other resting on a photo of her lost sister tucked into the console. When they reached the embassy, cheers erupted over the comms, but Lily only held Lyra tighter. Days later, the Solar Alliance declared the Kroth threat neutralized. The Hollow King, now known as Elder Tauren, had surrendered and offered full testimony, leading to the liberation of dozens of hidden camps. Lyra stood once more in the observation lounge, but this time, she was not alone. Lily joined her holding 2 mugs of steaming tea. One human one. Virelian blend. You saved us, Lyra said quietly. Not just my people, all of us. No, Lily replied. You reminded us that even in the darkest silence, love still echoes. Lyra took her hand and leaned her head on Lily's shoulder. Outside, the stars burned steady and bright, and for the first time in a long time, the universe felt whole.